Hello everyone, it's Nigel Saunders, the Bonsai Zone. In today's video, I'll be starting the process of repotting my large forest. But before I get to the repotting, I need to address something critical that many bonsai enthusiasts overlook: creating logical branch structures rather than just maximizing ramification. You'll learn my unique approach to natural conical pruning and discover how winter dieback can actually become an opportunity for improved design. Let me show you the forest as it stands today. You can see the buds are swelling nicely, and if you look up at the apex here, there's already a little bit of green showing. This is the perfect time to repot larches, when the buds are swelling and just beginning to show color. But before I put these trees in fresh soil, I need to clean up their structure. One of the biggest mistakes I see with deciduous bonsai is what I call the ball of branches problem. Trees become so densely ramified that all branch definition disappears. Look at this section here. There's certainly a lot of branching, but does it make visual sense? In nature, branches flow logically. They aren't just branching for the sake of branching. Today, I'll be losing some ramification, but I'll be gaining a much more natural and logical structure. Remember, you're always pruning to improve the branch structure for the future, not necessarily for today. Let me demonstrate what I mean with this branch right here. You can see I have several branches sweeping off to the left, and this one is growing straight with almost no ramification. I'd be better off removing this straight section and developing this more flowing part instead. This is exactly what you'll see in my thumbnail image, a branch before proper structural pruning and after, showing how removing material actually improves the tree. I'll start by rough cutting this branch. Now I'll clean up the stub with my round ball nose pruners, trying to create a smooth transition. There's a bit of a knuckle here I need to address. I always seal larger cuts with rubber cement to prevent excessive bleeding and ensure the tips of branches continue to receive enough sap. Let me show you the improvement to the branch flow. See how much more natural it looks now. I still have more detailed pruning to do. This shoot going straight up can be removed since I have two buds further down. This vertical shoot here can be shortened back to these lower buds. This is the decision-making process I'll be applying to every branch in the forest today. It's meticulous work, but these careful decisions are what separates a naturally beautiful bonsai from a merely technically correct one. As I work through the forest, I constantly need to step back and evaluate the overall silhouette. Larches in my area naturally grow in a conical form, so I want to replicate that in my bonsai. The ideal larch form has upper branches angling upward, middle branches growing more horizontally, and lower branches slightly weeping downward. This creates that beautiful, natural conical shape we're after. Now, let me show you something that might surprise you. Sometimes the hardest and most necessary cuts involve removing branches you've spent years developing. This branch here is one I've been nurturing for about 25 years. It's beautifully developed with nice ramification, but it's become too thick for its position in the tree. Look at how it disrupts the taper and conical form. Despite all the work I've put into it, I think it's time for it to go. There it is. A big decision, but sometimes we have to make these tough choices as our trees mature. Look at the size of that branch. But immediately you can see how much better the tree looks. The taper flows more naturally, and the conical form is restored. I'll seal this larger cut with rubber cement to help it heal cleanly. This is part of the story of this forest. It was one of my first forest plantings, started back in the late 1990s. I've watched these trees develop from tiny seedlings into the mature specimens you see today. Each difficult pruning decision is like saying goodbye to an old friend, but it's necessary for the forest's continued development. Here's another challenging situation: what bonsai artists call bar branches. These are branches growing directly opposite each other at the same level on the trunk. When you look at a tree with bar branches, your eye travels up the trunk and then gets stuck going left and right at the same point. It disrupts the visual flow we're trying to create. In this case, I need to remove one of these branches. With that branch removed, your eye now moves much more naturally up the tree. These are the subtle but critical improvements that elevate a bonsai from good to exceptional. One of the unique challenges with forest plantings is maintaining proper spacing between trees. As branches grow longer each year, they start interfering with neighboring trees. When branches cross and shade each other, you'll eventually get dieback, and once interior portions of branches die, you can't easily restore them. This is why I need to tighten up the conical form on each tree. Let me show you my approach to this problem. I always start at the top of the tree and work my way down, keeping the conical form in mind. If I were to start at the bottom, I might create a situation where the upper branches can't be reduced proportionally, which would lead to the upper foliage shading out the lower branches. This branch here is getting quite long and beginning to interfere with the neighboring tree. I have some inner branching I can cut back to, which will help maintain the spacing between trees. Sometimes this means removing fairly developed branch tips, which is always a bit painful, but necessary for the long-term health of the forest. I've been growing this forest for nearly 3 decades now. When I first arranged these trees, they were just tiny seedlings with plenty of space between them. Over the years, I've had to make continuous adjustments to maintain that critical spacing. If you're enjoying these techniques for maintaining forest plantings, make sure to subscribe to the Bonsai Zone. In my next video, I'll be showing the actual repotting process for this forest and revealing some special soil techniques I've developed specifically for larches that promote fine root development right near the trunk. Another important aspect of creating natural-looking larches is paying attention to the angle of branches at different heights on the tree. For the upper branches, I want them angling upward about 45 degrees. As we move down the tree, the middle branches should be more horizontal, and the lowest branches should have a slight downward angle. This creates that classic conical silhouette we see in nature. Here's a problem area on this tree. I have 2 branches, one directly above the other. Instead of removing one, which would leave this area too bare, I'm training this upper branch to grow toward the right and the lower branch toward the left. I'll prune off this back portion of the upper branch, which accomplishes 2 things. It gives more light to the lower branch, and it emphasizes the direction I want the remaining portion to grow. I could take this even further by removing this entire front portion and keeping just this section as my new leader. It's another significant cut, but I think it's necessary for the future development of both branches. Now, you can clearly see how each branch has its own space, the upper one directed to the left and the lower one to the right. Neither is shading the other, and both contribute to the overall design without competing. This is exactly why winter is such an ideal time for structural pruning of deciduous trees like larch. With the trees bare of foliage, I can clearly see all these structural issues and address them properly. Once the needles emerge in spring, it becomes much more difficult to see what's happening with the branch structure. As I continue working on this forest, I'm guided by my vision of creating tight, natural-looking conical forms for each tree. There's no point in having trees with extensive ramification if the branches don't make visual sense and aren't properly placed. I'll continue the pruning work today, and in the next video, I'll show you the actual repotting process. We'll examine the root systems, prepare the new soil mix, and get this forest settled into its refreshed container. Thank you for joining me today at the Bonsai Zone. I hope you've gained some insights into creating more natural-looking deciduous bonsai by focusing on logical branch structure rather than just maximizing ramification. I'd love to hear what you think about these pruning decisions. Do you agree with the branches I've removed, or would you have taken a different approach? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, I'm Nigel Saunders, the Bonsai Zone. Happy growing.